The Indiana Fever just exposed a side of the WNBA that many don't want to be talked about. What started as an exciting playoff matchup against the Las Vegas Aces quickly morphed into something far more troubling, a game filled with endless whistles, harsh physicality, and an undeniable sense that the playing field was anything but level. In one game alone, a staggering 41 fouls were called. Players were thrown to the floor repeatedly, and the very essence of basketball was lost in the chaos. And somehow the league chose silence amidst this storm. This is Chloe, WNBA, where the game's biggest moments meet the stories no one else tells. Before we get deeper, make sure you hit that like button if you believe the Fever deserve fair treatment. Your support means the world to those fighting against these injustices. Let's dive in. Let's set the stage with Game 1, where Indiana walked into one of the loudest arenas in the WNBA, facing off against the two-time reigning champions, the Las Vegas Aces. Everyone expected a tough battle and for Vegas to come out on top with ease. But Indiana had other plans. Led by Kelsey Mitchell, who put on a clinic with 34 points, the Fever not only matched but dismantled the champions on their own turf. The final score was an eye-opener. 89-73, a 16-point blowout that nobody saw coming. That scoreline sent shockwaves through the league and left the Aces rattled. Asia Wilson, who had been touted as one of the league's MVP frontrunners, was contained by Indiana's suffocating defense. Her night? 6 makes on 22 shots. It wasn't just off, it was a meltdown. Indiana's defense harassed her relentlessly, contesting each attempt and forcing her into uncomfortable positions. The Fever dictated the tempo from start to finish, executing their game plan with surgical precision, while Vegas struggled to find any rhythm. Yet, after suffering this humiliating defeat on home ground, something dark entered the stage. Game 2 wasn't just about bouncing back, it became about sending a brutal, physical message. The Aces wanted to intimidate, to punish, to regain control, and the officials seemed all too willing to let that happen. Right from the opening tip, it was clear this was no longer basketball as fans know it. Screens became blindside hits. Defenders grabbed and locked arms on rebounds, dragging offensive players down without consequences. The third quarter alone saw 16 fouls called, turning what should have been a fast-paced contest into a stop-and-go slog that destroyed Indiana's flow. Whenever the Fever pushed to speed up the game, another whistle blew, another break, more free throws for Vegas. The physicality was focused especially on Lexi Hull. Hull, already playing through a painful back injury suffered in Game 1, one that would have sidelined most players, taped herself up and took the floor. But that only made her the target of repeated hits and fouls. She went down more times than anyone could keep track of, yet fought through the pain, showing unmatched resilience. And then came the truly legendary performance. Despite all the physical punishment, Hall nailed 5 three-pointers, tying a Fever playoff record. That kind of grit is rare. It's the kind of heart coaches dream about. Yet, national media almost ignored her heroics. Instead, they focused on Asia Wilson's stat line, 25 points, 9 rebounds, 5 steals, 2 blocks, without mentioning how many of those were fueled by favoritism and aggressive tactics that went unchecked by the officials. Aaliyah Boston's experience tells a harsh story as well. Inside the paint, she got battered, ribs hit, back shoved, while fouls went uncalled. Yet she still put up double digits in points and rebounds, proving her toughness under pressure. Watching the tape, it's clear Boston wasn't thriving, she was surviving, carrying herself like a veteran with silent determination. Indiana's head coach didn't hold back after the game. When asked about their offensive struggles, her response was frank. It's hard for us to find any flow when there's a foul every 10 seconds. When they're at the line constantly, we can't get up and down the court properly. That's a huge challenge. In other words, the referees took the wheel and steered the game away from true competition. And this pattern isn't new. We're well into 2025, yet the same issues persist as when Caitlin Clark was sidelined earlier in the season. The league allows blatant physical play against some teams while ignoring it against favorites. Favorable whistles swing the momentum. The league office remains quiet as games turn into brawls rather than basketball contests. The cold numbers don't lie. 41 fouls in one game, 16 in just the third quarter. Indiana's offense was chopped up again and again, never allowed to find rhythm. Meanwhile, Vegas capitalized on free throws to control the pace and choke off Indiana's biggest weapon, their speed and ball movement. This wasn't accidental bad officiating, it was manipulation designed to shape the outcome. When the series moved back to Indiana for Game 3, the atmosphere shifted. Home court meant packed stands, sure, but more importantly, it meant the possibility of fair officiating. Indiana could finally play their style without getting battered at every turn. And suddenly, the eyes of the nation were watching to see if the bias would persist. Social media exploded after Game 2, with fans uploading clips showing no calls and phantom fouls that painted an impossible picture for anyone trying to claim the game was fair. One viral clip shows Asia Wilson shoving a defender to the floor with zero whistle blown. Another shows Hall called for a foul on a near ghost contact. These clips piled up, forcing even casual observers to ask the uncomfortable questions. The WNBA's official response? Total silence. No statement, no explanation, just silence. They hoped the fire would burn out, but Indiana fans weren't willing to let it go. They remembered every missed call, every unfair whistle, every moment their team was held down by injustice, and they made sure to show up loud and proud for Game 3. The media bias was equally glaring. Every outlet celebrated Wilson's stat line and leadership, ignoring Hall's heroic performance or Boston's unyielding battle inside the paint. The story had been written before tip-off, but here's what everyone needs to understand. This isn't just about one team or one series. The WNBA has preferred franchises, the ones it depends on for ratings, star power, merchandise sales, and attractive storylines. Vegas is that team. Indiana, despite its young talent and potential, doesn't fit the mold the league wants. They are supposed to be obstacles, not victors. When Indiana shocked the league by winning Game 1 convincingly, the script broke, and Game 2's harsh physicality felt like an attempt to put everything back in place. The injuries tell the story no one is shouting loud enough. Hall battling a back injury, Boston bruised and battered all game long, Mitchell constantly grabbed and held while driving. This wasn't playoff basketball. It was a targeted campaign of attrition against a young team. And when the coach tried to call it out, her words were dismissed as excuses. This is the hidden struggle, the foul game beyond the scoreboard that more and more fans are waking up to. If you think the Fever were robbed in Game 2, let your voice be heard in the comments below. The implications go beyond just the Fever. Young stars like Boston see early on that pure talent isn't enough. You need the right jersey, the right narrative, and the league's backing. Different teams get different rules, different teams get different whistles. That's not sport, that's manipulation. After the storm of Game 2, some critics who initially spoke out against the officiating suddenly went silent, deleting social media posts, change-tuning their commentary to praise Vegas' championship toughness, as if a quiet threat had been delivered. Those who dared to keep speaking out were branded bitter and biased, dismissed as sore losers. But Indiana refuses to give up. They know what the system is set against, but they also know their talent can overcome anything. With a fair game. The bigger question lingers. Is a fair game even possible anymore when the league, officials, and media all seem aligned? The answer is to play so dominantly it can't be denied. But this problem goes deeper. Look at how teams are marketed, who dominates social media, whose storylines get airtime, and whose are buried. Indiana's young, talented core threatens the established powers, players who don't back down, who refuse politics. And that makes them a target. Vegas guarantees ratings and huge engagement. Indiana, not quite there yet, in terms of casual attention. The league is protecting business interests, and sometimes fairness takes a hit. What's most shocking is how obvious it's all become. No more subtlety. 41 fouls in one game, mostly called one way. Players bounced around with no consequences. Coaches biting tongues for fear of fines. Fans forced to watch as the integrity cracks. This is the cost when narrative trumps competition. Post-Game 2 injury reports tell more truths. Multiple Fever players were forced to the sidelines or sidelined by injuries caused by unchecked aggression. Meanwhile, Vegas's injury sheet stayed clean. Not a coincidence. What happens next will determine the future of the league. If this pattern continues and games are won by whistles instead of talent, fans will eventually turn away. While attendance might hold initially, trust evaporates quickly, and once gone is nearly impossible to regain.